The crazy thing to see about this division, too, is seeing the Patriots all the way down there at plus 750 to win it. I mean, for so many years, right? That's always been the team. It's always been about the Patriots. And now it's really all about Buffalo and whether or not this team has regressed at all from last year. And look, the end of last season, obviously, they went through some stuff that no team should have to go through that with Damar Hamlin. And I mean, complete distraction, and rightfully so. But we watched some erosion with that offense before any of that went down on Monday Night Football, and it just at least leads to at least a little bit of a concern going, Buffalo is vulnerable right now, which kind of then swings me back onto, and I hate to do this because Ryan's been jumping on the bandwagon from the beginning, but it may be the Jets' division this year. At plus 250, the Jets might be the best bet, and I know it's technically not chalky because they're not the favorites, but in reality, everybody seems to love this team with Aaron Rodgers there, and they're flashy now, and they're going to be on Hard Knocks. That's probably the team in the AFC East that I've got the most confidence in.
Trista, we'll start with you. Change my mind on Monday. The Jets will smash the Denver Broncos in Week 5 now, post Payton Rodgers. Keep my coach's name out your mouth. Comments, Jets -1, says some of the early lines. Jets at Denver, week number 5. Change my mind. New York by 1 billion. Trista, start with you.
I tell you what, when the Broncos are in Denver at the crib, it really doesn't matter how good or bad they are. They never get smashed. They just compete. The elevation, this defense, hopefully Sean Payton figuring things out with Russell Wilson back to his old self and a bevy of weapons. Smash? No. Win? Probably. I would say probably Jets money line is fair, but the line at -1 is I think right.
I cannot wait for this game. I mean, it's 5 weeks into the season, and this is already going to be one of the top 3 most hyped games before the regular season even starts. I love the back and forth. I love the trash talking. I hope there's a lot of it on Hard Knocks. I don't know how much we're going to see. No, I don't think the Jets will smash the Broncos because Sean Payton and the Broncos also have something to prove. I think this is going to be a pride game really for both. And we talked earlier with Zack Rosenblatt about the tough schedule for the Jets early in the season. Look, this is one of them. The Broncos are not last year's Broncos. And Sean Payton's made that very, very clear. So this is going to be a team that you're going to take a lot more seriously now. I certainly do. I do like the Jets to win that game on the road. I'm with you, I think, on the Jets' money line. But this is not going to be one of those one-sided games like we saw almost week in and week out for the Broncos and their losses last year.
Change my mind on a Monday. Dalvin Cook, Nick, we'll start with you this time, is still a top 5 running back in the right situation. By the way, he's plus 4,000 at a domestic to lead the league in rushing yards.
I wouldn't touch that.
Change my mind.
Who's even a top 5 running back anymore in today's NFL?
What does that mean, I guess?
Here are the top 6 rushers last year in the NFL. Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, Dalvin Cook. I mean, look, does Derrick Henry take a step back? Yeah, there's a good chance, even though he had 1,500 yards rushing last year. Josh Jacobs, is he going to be the same player as last year? I think Nick Chubb leads the league in rushing this year. Saquon Barkley has something to prove, so maybe he's up there. You're twisting my arm. I guess I don't think I can. I can't put him in the top 5 because Christian McCaffrey could have a better season even this year, even though he's going to be used as a wide receiver a lot. Travis Etienne could get a lot more carries, let's say, with Jacksonville. I don't know, man. Trista, the running back situation in the NFL is so gross and so hard to even understand at this point.
That we should have a Zoom about it?
I think we should have a Zoom about it. I think that's what we need to do.
Wait, did I miss Zoom I was supposed to be in?
No, when they had their big Zoom call, remember?
Oh, yes, yes.
Union, Trista.
I mean, if you want to, we can have a Zoom call all about just that, Trista, and we'll just gripe about the running back market, and I don't want to touch any of their props.
Do you remember when it was during COVID and everyone did that Beatles song? And it was and everybody was doing it via Zoom or whatever. They're doing it virtually. If I could change my picture. I don't know. That's what I think about when I think about their Zoom running back meeting. Dalvin Cook, top 5 running back in the right situation. No, because I think those situations are either the Jets or mine. And what we know about the Jets is that Breece Hall's still that guy. And when he comes back, he's going to get the workload. So he's not going to be, Dalvin Cook's not going to be RB1 there. And then Mike McDaniel in Miami is going to use receivers as weapons, and his running backs are going to be. So there's a differentiation in terms of who gets used, like the Shanahan model, where remember in the Shanahan model, the running backs just weren't really that high of value. They were able to be replaced and plugged in and plugged out. So as much as I like Dalvin Cook, and he was like a top 6, top 7 running back last year, and there's room for him to grow, I don't know that the situation exists again for him to be the player that he was last year.
From running back question to running back question. Trista, we'll start with you this time. Change my mind on a Monday. Saquon Barkley will lead the NFL in rushing yards. Plus 1,500 at a domestic book behind Nick Chubb, who's at plus 450. Jonathan Taylor, Lord knows when we'll see him again. Maybe sooner than you think. Plus 650. Derrick Henry plus 650. And Bijan Robinson at 10-1. Saquon right there. 15-1 at domestic. Change my mind, Trista. Saquon's going to lead the league in rushing yards.
Well, if I was going to do him dirty, like the Giants might, you run him into the ground, right? Like you give him the ball over and over again. But I think with Daniel Jones and his new contract, I think he's going to be able to throw the ball a little bit. Another year with Joe Shane, another year with Brian Daboll, figuring out a way to use him. You've got Darren Waller there. They've added some new weapons in the draft. So maybe they're not going to use Saquon as much. I don't think I can do it. Saquon's had one really good year. Obviously, when he first came into the league, he was a monster. But then he's had all these injury concerns, which is why they don't want to pay him all that guap that he thinks he's worth. So no, I don't think I could do it. Great value, but don't think I could do it.
Love the value. Scott, I'm going to try to just convince you that he can, all right? And convince everybody that he can.
Change it.
The only real reason is because it would be a contract year for him, and he's really pissed off, and he runs angry the entire season. But you got to count on him staying healthy. You got to count on him having another big year when he's struggled to do that consistently in his time in the NFL. But again, we just went down the list of like who you think the top 5 running backs could be in the NFL, and there's nobody that stands out head and shoulders above the rest. I mean, I would have said that about Jonathan Taylor before last season. I don't know where he's going. I don't know what the situation is, Trista. I have no idea. So maybe it's Nick Chubb, maybe it's Saquon Barkley or Bijan Robinson. The only way that I would at least put it just maybe a sprinkle at 15-1 is because he's going to be angry. And also Daniel Jones. Come on, like let's stop pretending they're going to throw the ball 45 times a game with Daniel Jones. I know they're paying him $40 million a year, but that team learned very quickly, here's how we win. We give Daniel Jones some opportunities to throw the football, and then we give it to Saquon Barkley. So at 15-1, there actually is value in that price, but like I'm not overly like confident that that's going to be the case. Even though there's a lot of hype and spotlight around the Jets, they may be the team that I'm the most comfortable in. If I had to bet one of those teams to win the division, what's your confidence level in this team given the expectations and the spotlight that's there now?
It's hard to give a full degree of confidence and either or pessimism even just because we haven't seen what this offense looks like with Aaron. It's been bumpy in training camp, but it's so early. It's a new quarterback. He's very different than any other quarterback in the way he plays and all the things you need to know as a receiver when you're out there and all that. But in terms of like on paper, what they have, their coaching staff, the players they brought back on defense, guys going in their second year ready to take another leap, my confidence is pretty high that this team should be competitive at the very least and contending for the division. This is a playoff team for sure in my mind when you just look at the pieces they have. Whether it works out, we're going to find out. They have a really hard stretch to open that season. The Bills in week 1 is going to wind up being a very important game, like maybe more than usual for week 1 because of how I think close that AFC East is going to be, like you mentioned, and if the Jets are competing for a high seed in the playoffs in theory. So that game's going to be huge, and we're going to find out how ready they are for primetime. They play the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Patriots, and I believe there's another good team in there within the first 6 games, and that's like pretty insane first 6 games for a team that has so many new things going. So my confidence is going to largely be how they handle that beginning stretch, but I think they can, and I think Aaron Rodgers still has something left in the tank personally.
I'm curious, Zach, the tackle position felt like an absolute necessity to take care of, especially when you think about somebody like Aaron Rodgers who needs to be protected, right? That's why David Bakhtiari got so much money, and they just really didn't do that, and now Becton is seems to be recovering. Dwayne Brown is out. Kind of much of the same news from last year. Like, how much of your confidence level hinges on that?
A big part of it, I think that's the biggest concern they have right now, without question. I think it's the number one issue. Those tackles have had a rough time in camp. In camp, sometimes you have to, it's hard to figure out, is one position really good or is the other position group really bad, or is it a combination of the two? The Jets' defensive end, the defensive line is very good, I think. Maybe it's looked better going against this offensive line. I don't know. Or maybe the offensive line's like worse because they're going against guys that, I think the Jets have five defensive ends that would start on most teams, which is pretty insane. So it's a concern. Max Mitchell and Billy Turner have been the first team guys with Dwayne Brown out. Dwayne Brown's almost 40 years old, so it's his body's not going to hold up as well anyway. But I think he's in great shape, and I actually think he's better than people give him credit for when he's on the field. But he's coming off shoulder surgery. He played through a pretty tough injury last year. Makai, as you mentioned, I just don't view him as an option right now. Billy Turner doesn't really inspire much confidence for me. Max Mitchell has shown some flashes, but he's still pretty unproven. So that's like four guys I just listed with question marks. And so that's an issue. And I think it'd be if this doesn't work out with Joe Douglas's idea to pretty much run it back with the same guys he had last year, they believed it was bad luck. If that gamble doesn't pay off, it's going to be a problem because Aaron Rodgers, he can still move a little better than I think people realize for a 39-year-old, but he still is 39. He can't move like he used to. If he gets hit, it's going to hurt him a little more than maybe when he was younger. So it's a concern I have. Even up the middle, they brought back Connor McGovern and they drafted Joe Tippmann early. Joe Tippmann is not really ready to play. They don't even have him running above 13. And I don't think Connor McGovern has looked great in camp. He's a veteran, so they trust him a little more. But there's questions on the offensive line just like there has been for a long time. If that group is not good, this offense is going to have some trouble.
Talking to Zack Rosenblatt, BetMGM tonight. Of the last 18 teams that have been on Hard Knocks, the total record for those teams is 143 and 146. 8 have hit the over on their win total. 9 have gone under and 1's pushed. Do you think that it can be a distraction for this Jets team that could affect them? You talk about the tough schedule they've got early on in the year, but then you also hear at the same time they're going to really limit the kind of access that's going to be, granted to HBO. Like, how much at this point is played into that being a distraction or not with people that are covering the team and maybe just around the team in general and what they maybe say?
It's going to be another wait and see thing. I don't think it's going to be a huge distraction. Like you mentioned, how they're going to limit access. Like the teams have control over like what gets shown on the show. I mean, I don't know if they used to back like when the Jets were on it with Rex Ryan. Like that was one of the more entertaining seasons, and you got to really see who Rex Ryan was. And I don't think that kind of stuff is really going to show up on there like it used to. So, on one hand, like maybe there won't be anything controversial, but on the other, Sauce Gardner still has like cameras following him home to his college graduation. Like there's a different level of attention. These cameras following these guys everywhere they go. Like they can feel the attention. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the Sean Payton thing. Like maybe this is good practice for them because they're going to have cameras in their face all year. This is a team that has as many primetime games as any in the country, or in the league, I should say. They don't even have that many 1 p.m. games. Most of theirs are at 4, so they're one of the only games on TV. People are going to be watching them. People are going to be commenting on them. People are going to be criticizing them. So maybe this HBO thing could prove to be a good thing. I don't know, but you don't want their head to get too big before they've accomplished anything. And I definitely think it's fair to wonder if that's going to happen.